life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown.
There's just needles everywhere.
When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know.
People are running out of money replacing the windows, they're running out of patience.
It is a complex problem.
Downtown, just listen to the music, not the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalk where the neon signs are pretty.
Right there on our awning, I'm not sure how to clean that off yet.
You can't forget all your troubles, forget all your cares.
Let's see, it's not even 2 o'clock. We've probably written 40 citations for just open air drug use.
Things will be great when you're downtown.
We're hurting, and we see that nobody care about us.
At some point, everybody just gets fed up.
So go downtown, everything's waiting for you.
I like to walk, but walking in downtown Portland looks different these days. Some of the streets seem deserted. Some have boarded up shops. That was Louis Vuitton. I'm not sure what that was.
This used to be a stationery store. It had beautiful pane glass windows there. Those got broken out more than once, I think. Doorway used to be there. Looks like they're still doing business online, but they're not downtown.
There are a few people in doorways.
This is the Standard building, which used to be full of Standard Insurance employees. Most of them now work from home. So there's not nearly as many people here as there used to be. It's not empty though. There's still a lot of tenants here in the building.
This used to be a 7-Eleven store. There were often fights and problems with homeless folks here. The padlock sends a clear message now. And the flowers, they look as wilted as this corner of our city. But some areas do look better.
It's nice that the Apple store is taking down the big barriers on the outside, although I looked at it a little more closely. It's actually an inner barrier. So there's still a barrier. It's just not nearly as ugly as it was.
On this walk, I stopped people at random to talk about Portland.
So what do you think of downtown Portland these days?
It's definitely a little scary.
Yeah.
I mean, earlier we were walking by and some guy was holding like a taser.
Oh my gosh.
Really scary, yeah.
This guy's a bus driver on vacation from Canada.
You smell a lot of urine.
I asked how he'd describe our downtown.
When you get home, what will you tell your friends it was like? How would you describe our downtown?
It's dead.
The Oregonian reported last week that more than 20%, a fifth of office space in downtown Portland is vacant. That's according to industry analyst CoStar.
If you look across the street, you see lease, 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 lease. A lot of empty storefronts.
It's part of a national trend for cities. A lot of people are still working from home, and companies are moving to the suburbs. But others I spoke with think downtown might be bottoming out and ready to rise again. Anthony Eddings is one of those people.
But the state can come back. I got hope.
I bumped into him and we talked on a corner as a woman nearby seemed to struggle with life. Turns out, he's a fan of our show.
It's not too late.
No!
So we've seen a lot of graffiti, not very much foot traffic really.
No. But once again, it'll come back. With you and people with you like you.
And people like you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
It'll come back. I truly believe that it is on the up.
So it feels like downtown is a real mix right now. It's nothing like it was before the pandemics and riots. There are still plenty of disturbing scenes. But there are other areas too, other blocks that feel pretty safe and normal. I think the city's on the verge of getting better. I hope it continues.
Every now and then we get questions from longtime viewers wanting to know, are you ever going back to your studio on the square at Pioneer Courthouse Square? We used to broadcast live from our studio at the square every day, right up until the pandemic. Well, tonight we're back. I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. Now, no, we're not back inside the studio, but yes, we are on the bricks because we thought this would be the perfect place to bring you an entire show about the state of downtown Portland. You know, downtown is one of the hottest topics that we get on this show. Anytime we mention it, you flood our emails and our voicemails with your thoughts, your comments, your concerns, and we love this. Here's one example from Jason who writes, Downtown Portland has become a cesspool of crime, anger, tension, and foolishness. I finally had enough of this thing Portland has become and moved out 2 years ago. I lost faith in city leaders, the police, and I lost hope in the city that I love. Hey Jason, I gotta tell you, you're not alone. We hear from a lot of people who love downtown, but say they've either moved out of the area because of it, or they're out in the suburbs and they're not coming downtown ever again. I gotta tell you, we love this city too, but we realize that there are problems here. There's violence, there's crime, there's graffiti, there's drug use, mental health problems, the list goes on and on and on. But we don't want to just focus on the bad things, because there's good things too. At this square, for example, this summer there's a whole slate of concerts that are planned for free, just to entice people to come down and have some fun. We're also going to hear from a city leader, Commissioner Dan Ryan, to find out what's needed to bring downtown back to what it once was. You'll hear from him later in the show. But first, let's talk about something that used to pull big crowds into downtown, the arts. You know, concerts, theater, live performances, that sort of thing. But many of those arts organizations are struggling right now, and they say it's in part because of the perception that downtown is so dangerous. Our producer, Ashley Koch, has our story.
As musicians at the Oregon Symphony rehearse on stage at the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall, they're laser focused, making sure they hit the right notes. But backstage, CEO Scott Showalter is worried.
It's going to be a difficult business moving forward without support from our local community.
There's something magical about Southwest Main and Broadway in downtown Portland.
When the Arts District is up and vibrant and going, there's nothing like it.
Kirk Mauser is the artistic director of Stumptown Stages, a nonprofit musical theater company. Right now, they're getting ready for their production of The Full Monty.
And you can see the car right behind me. We're in the process of getting it theater ready.
It opens next month in the Portland 5 Center for the Arts. A few weeks ago, we asked viewers, are you willing to come downtown to see a show or catch a concert? Many of you had no problem, like Deborah.
I go down there all the time. I feel safe. I obviously pay attention, but I go to the Symphony, I go to the Keller, I see shows at the Newmark. I actually usher down there also some, but I feel fine.
But others of you weren't so sure.
My wife and I used to love to go to the opera. We would make the trip in and go to dinner at one of the restaurants downtown. Most of those are closed now. We would love to go back, but our kids, who are now adults, have all told us, don't, Mom and Dad, it's not safe. Don't go down there.
It's that perception that the downtown arts organizations are battling.
The greatest threat to the Oregon Symphony today is, in fact, the perception that downtown is unsafe. It's the #1 reason by far if people are holding back from coming to live performances.
Showalter isn't just saying that. He's got data to back it up from extensive surveys with their patrons. They asked people why they weren't renewing subscriptions this year. Most of the top 8 responses had to do with the state of downtown Portland.
Lack of police presence, homelessness, drug use, you name it. These issues are very familiar to all of us, but they're impacting the Oregon Symphony, whose business is predicated on in-person experiences, especially.
There are other issues at play. No one gets into the arts to get rich, but across the board, it's getting harder to even survive and more expensive to do a show.
Materials and supplies of just building a set and putting a show up, we see the cost of wood, lumber increasing significantly.
Local grants have dropped, and Metro is raising the rent at both venues.
Our rates, our total bill to use this facility, named for the Oregon Symphony, have doubled since 2016. Local government, the city and Metro, have created a chasm of $1.5 million more than was the case back in 2016.
Now, it's time to have some conversations.
When you're losing money and yet expenses are increasing, you can kind of see the writing on the wall. At some point you jump ship or you just no longer exist.
Has there been any thought to jumping ship, moving out of Portland to somewhere else?
Oh boy, yes, there has been.
And for us to be able to survive and thrive in the future, we're going to need significant help, and soon.
What happens if nothing changes?
God forbid we will become a shadow of our former selves.
If the lights went dark in downtown Portland.
I mean, when you think about most major American cities, there is a symphony at the heart of the culture.
Without the arts, we would just be this vacuum, this hole.
Both the Oregon Symphony and Stumptown stages have hope and a request.
Come back downtown. I mean, that is the number one thing that we all need to do in droves, is come to live performances at the Schnitz and around the region.
But if you want to that Portland that you dream about, that you love, then be part of it. Come downtown, see for yourself.
You can sure feel the earnestness there. Hey, and in fairness to those of you who are concerned, it's not just your perception that downtown is more dangerous than it used to be. It actually is. That's a fact. For example, in April of 2019, just before the pandemic, there were 64 assaults downtown. I just checked this today. This past April, there were 77. So yeah, the number has gone up. The concern, though, is that you're worried that it's much higher than that, when in fact, if you compare those Aprils from 2019 to this year, that's only an increase of 17%. I know, it's not nothing, but it's not really huge. Here's a message from Cheryl, who wrote, "We are 73 and 83 and regularly go downtown to the symphony, the ballet, the library, and the arts and lecture series. We do worry about our safety everywhere in Portland. The mayor does nothing. So it is up to us to save our city." Well, when it comes to saving the city, we know it's an uphill battle. We've seen the problems around us, and you've probably seen the attempts by city leaders to fix them. One of the ideas was to have city workers come back to their offices downtown. Last month, some employees with the city of Portland were required to return to the office at least half-time. But as we take a wider look of downtown Portland, there are still a lot of empty office buildings. Trying to get downtown back to what it was before the pandemic, filled with office workers, is not happening, at least not yet. A lot of people have discovered they don't have to be at the office. They can work from somewhere else. Some experts suggest that saving downtown now requires rethinking how we deal with downtowns.
Last year, a study from UC Berkeley, looking at the ways downtowns have recovered or not recovered from the pandemic, found that Portland was just about dead last for recovery. Number 60 out of 62 cities across America. One of the researchers on the study told us it's because Portland was too reliant on office workers. Karen Chappell said that the cities that recovered faster are the ones who got away from that.
What they could do if they wanted to do better, if they wanted to look like San Diego, for instance, or New York even, which is back at 78% of pre-pandemic levels, beef up your arts and entertainment sectors. Tourism is bringing back a number of different cities.
No surprise, people in the arts industry agree. We talked to J.S. May, the president of the Cultural Advocacy Coalition of Oregon, who says we don't always realize the economic impact of the arts.
If you look at the impact of the arts, I mean, people think about this being a small sector, but we're across the state of Oregon, we're $9.5 billion worth of business on an annual basis. The timber industry is $7 billion. So we're larger than what you would think about as one of Oregon's core industries.
May says the average person coming to see a show will spend about $45 each on things outside the theater or concert hall, things like dinner or drinks before the show.
There's one more arts organization we want to tell you about that's actually betting big on downtown Portland. A theater group just moved into downtown. They plan to stay for decades. Here again is our producer, Ashley Koch.
Opening weekend is completely sold out. Our field trips are full. We're filling up the following weekends as well.
The staff at the Northwest Children's Theater is thrilled about moving into their new space downtown.
We've always wanted to be downtown, and specifically this neighborhood, on Broadway in the Arts District across from the Schnitzer and Newmark, Winningstad. This is pretty much the ideal location for a theater company.
They renovated an old movie theater at Southwest Broadway and Main and signed a 30-year lease for the space.
We are absolutely in it for the long haul. We are taking the long view on this, and I have absolute 100% confidence that in a very short order here, downtown is going to be the place to be.
They're ready to give families a reason to come back downtown with shows, movies, classes, and camps that are all filling up quickly, and a lot more planned for the future.
This is where Cinderella is going to open in a couple weeks, which is an original big band tap musical version of the story, taking place here in the Round in our black box space.
Fenster says they haven't had any concerns about safety in downtown Portland. They've got confidence in their building's security, and they know there's potential here.
I, see it come to life when there's a performance across the street, with the symphony, or I see it come to life when there's a play at the Newmark. Part of just the magic of coming to work every day is when I leave for the night and the Schnitzer is just coming to life and it's all lit up and there's a big crowd coming out of our parking lot and headed over. It just feels like we're kind of at the epicenter of things here.
And they want to be a part of the future of downtown Portland.
We have a lot of vacancy rates downtown and offices downtown right now. I would say fill them up with arts organizations like Northwest Children's Theater.
Ashley Koch, KGW News.
This is Southwest 3rd and Main. It's where the Thompson elk statue and the fountain stood for decades here in Portland. But that all changed during the riots of 2020. It was burned and damaged and eventually taken down. As you look around, you see there's still steel fencing up around the federal building and the boarded windows of the Justice Center there. For more than 100 nights, there were protests here. People camped out night and day, sometimes rioting, getting in battles with police and the feds. A lot of you point to the protests as the beginning of the decline for the city of Portland. And as we've seen, there are still lots of problems, but in the park here, it is peaceful and quiet. People enjoying a nice spring day. So there is some progress. When we come back, we're going to hear from Commissioner Dan Ryan about what he thinks happened and what needs to happen to bring Portland back. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. Give us a call, will you? 503-226-5090, or send us an email. Our email address is thestory@kgw.com. Portland's form of government is going to change big time in about a year and a half. But until then, the mayor and the 4 commissioners have a huge impact on what happens throughout the city, and especially here in downtown. And that's why I wanted to talk to City Commissioner Dan Ryan to get his vision for the future of downtown. Thanks for making time to talk with me.
Absolutely. Picked great weather, Pat.
What do you think about the future of arts in downtown?
Well, it's essential. I mean, we all know it's about activating downtown spaces. It's a beautiful day, and right now on this block, we're the only ones on it.
I know.
And we'd like, there's some people over there, but we would really love to see downtown Portland activated morning, noon, and night.
Yeah. It used to be busy.
It did. And arts has always been that activator of activity in downtown, especially on evenings and weekends. And so you see, I know when I go out to arts events, it's really awesome to just see so many people out.
Yeah.
But afterwards, you want to find a restaurant that's open. And, we just have to keep getting the currency flowing downtown. And really, arts is a main activator of that.
Well, and we hear from viewers who say...
And I always like to add music, film, so it's not, arts
it's a big umbrella.
It's a big ecosystem, absolutely.
But we hear from viewers who some say they used to love to come down here, now they won't at night because they're afraid, or some won't at all. How do you get over that?
Yeah, well, that's where everything's all connected. So the focused work that we're doing on community safety, I mean, when you hear from arts organizations why their patrons aren't renewing their subscriptions or why they're not coming back, it's the same complaints you hear from small businesses, the same that you hear from those who can't lease out their office spaces. It really is about community safety. We're seeing some improvements. I can say the coordination within the city is much better than it used to be. I see more cooperation between police and the community safety system that is under Mike Myers. And so there's just better coordination, the people at Clean and Safe, the different communities coming together to be a part of that system. The park rangers, they're all a part of the community safety system.
Do you feel safe downtown?
I do. And one reason I feel safe is maybe because I lived in New York in the 80s, maybe because I can still run.
I'm sure you can, but that should not be.
Well, I'm just being honest. That's one
not.
reason I feel safe.
Yeah.
So when I listen to my friends who are elders or have disabilities, and when they tell me they don't feel safe, that's who I'm advocating for.
Yeah.
And that's back to why people feel safe in numbers. So the activation of our streets is a safety issue. So once it's like a chicken and egg. So the same people that are afraid to come downtown, I beg of them to
give it a shot. It's actually much nicer down here than people realize. And I'm hearing from more and more people that when they finally do come downtown and go to the symphony again, go to the theater again, when you saw the people that were at the opening for the Northwest Children's Theater, all the families and children that are going to be activating that space morning, noon, and night, there's a joy just when people start coming back on the streets together. And we have Rose Festival coming up, which is going to really help too.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
What about city workers? We hear people saying, how come the city workers aren't back in their buildings and filling downtown?
Yeah, I think our office has been back in person for so long, I forget about that sometimes. And increasingly, we ask all of our meetings to be in person. We're finding, obviously, a lot of our city workers have never gone home because they're directly serving the public. Okay. And I know we're making headway on that. I think we'll have a rollout soon of.
Well, I think the Portland City building is pretty empty, isn't it?
There's supposed to, at least 1 or 2 days a week is what I'm hearing from most people over there. Yeah. But it's going to be going up.
But why can't you just say 5 days a week?
There's negotiations that are taking place with the labor partners.
So there's unions involved?
Of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's just how it works.
Mm-hmm. Do you get the frustration of Portlanders? I'm sure you do, because we hear it. I'm sure you hear it more than I do.
Oh, never.
But people are like, all this money and all these problems remain.
I think there's fatigue, and I understand it. I hear the frustration morning, noon, and night. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to Mass on Sunday. I can't go to New Seasons. These are just a few examples where I don't hear from people or get interesting eyes from constituents. Yeah. So I'm well aware that I signed up to be part of the solution, and I'm working my tail off with partners all across government and nonprofits and private sector to keep building. And so our best days are going to come if, in fact, Portlanders dig in and actually want to be a part of the solution together. The blame game's got to end. We got to really be resilient as a city, as a collective, and have some shared accountability in all this.
When it comes to talking about downtown and its future, we also want to take a look at what's working and why. When we come back, we'll see what's still bringing the crowds to downtown Portland.
Can you please add a little something positive about Portland? Because lately it seems like the story's been nothing but Debbie Downer. I know there's problems in our city, but there's got to be some good, right?
Yes, right. Thank you for that voicemail. There is some good going on down here. So let's take a look. Let's move to a more hopeful outlook for the spring and the rest of the summer. Summer promises a number of really fun events in downtown Portland. Festival season just kicked off last week with the return of Cinco de Mayo at the Waterfront Park. The crowds gathered for that show that nothing is off limits. Big gatherings like that are still going to happen. Lots of people came out to celebrate and support local businesses. Rose Festival events will be starting up later this month. They have lots of things to enjoy: parades, dragon boat races, the city fair. We went to check out the Portland Farmers Market downtown in the park blocks. Vendors say they are also excited to be there.
And we're here to add beauty to it and to bring people a positive reason to come out and see what's going on, because there are a lot of really great things happening downtown.
And we got this email from viewer Kathy, who wrote, "As someone who actually lives downtown, I see it finally starting to come back. I see the summer as being huge." Well, we certainly hope that's the case, Kathy. We hope that Portland is on the way back and that it will finish strong. Hey, that's our show for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Remember, our story, the collective story, well, that never ends. And send us an email, will you? Let us know if you're planning on coming downtown anytime soon. I hope you have a great night, and I hope you stick around for the 6:30 news, because that's coming up right now.